keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Mesdames et
Puis là, on ouvre les portes. Let the doors be open. Got to say, that was very impressive. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Surrey Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize some of the outstanding individuals and organizations in Surrey who have been helping members of our community get through these challenging times. Thank you to all the frontline workers for your tireless work, to the staff at Surrey Memorial Hospital, who have one of the busiest ERs in North America, to the unstoppable philanthropist Manjeet Litt, who donated $100,000 to Surrey Hospital Foundation, to the Spark Foundation for providing care packages, Surrey Cares for providing funding grants, the Guru Nanak Food Bank for providing food boxes, to Bhupinder Hoti at Taco Del Mar, Goodrich Transportation, Channel Punjabi, and the Aria Banquet Hall for providing meals to frontline workers, and to all the volunteers who have sewn thousands of masks for the most vulnerable and needy. And finally, to the many, many others in our community who I have not mentioned today, who are selflessly helping to make the lives of others a little bit easier during these unprecedented times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, time and again, business owners, community groups, and First Nations have demanded respectful consultations from this government. In Lockport, Manitoba, in my riding, the Minister of Public Service and Procurement made the unilateral decision to move forward with repairs to the St. Andrews Lock and Dam with little to no consultations with local government, businesses, or the community. In fact, my office reached out repeatedly to the minister's office for a month requesting a departmental briefing, but they wouldn't even pick up the phone to give me a call. Instead, my office received a short description of the asset and a summary of ongoing work on site. It was 600 words. That's all this government thinks Manitobans deserve, 600 words. This is an insult to me as their elected representative and the thousands of Manitobans who are directly impacted by this callous top-down approach. The Liberal government needs to remember they work for Canadians, not the other way around. Quit acting like dictators and just pick up the phone.
L'honorable député de Pierrefonds-Dollard.
The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Today at noon, the Subcommittee on International Human Rights released a statement on the situation of the Uyghur people and other Turkic Muslims in Xinjiang, China. The statement was consensus-based. Members from all parties agreed to it. We learned 2 full days of deeply disturbing testimony that between 1 and 3 million Uyghur people are currently being held in concentration camps by the government of China. This includes men, women, and children, some as young as 13. We learned about inhumane and unspeakable treatment. Rape, torture, permanent sterilization, forced abortion are widespread. We learned that some products we use here in Canada are almost certainly tainted by forced labor. Legal experts, including Erwin Kotler, said this amounts to crimes against humanity and genocide. Canada has a responsibility to protect. We must redouble our efforts in working with other countries to stop this unfolding genocide against the Uyghur people.
L'honorable député de Salaberry.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, in Salaberry-sur-Roi, community organizations as well as the CISMO Health Centre have come together in order to create a mobile warmth unit as winter approaches to support people living with homelessness. These partners have come together to adapt a bus which will go through the streets of Salaberry. People will be able to have coffee there, warm up, and meet their basic needs. Volunteers will be on board the bus to share an essential dose of human warmth. I would like to pay tribute to the hard work and leadership of Claude Théoret, Marie-Lou Carrier, and André Couillard, Roger Gagné, and François Labossière, the last two from the Knights of the Columbus, Steve Hickey from La Pastorale Sociale, Annie Jalbert Desforges from the town of Salaberry de Valleyfield, and Louis-Philippe Boucher from CISMO. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the Bloc Québécois and from all inhabitants of Salaberry-sur-Roi, thank you.
Député d'Orléans.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member for Orléans.
Today to recognize all the incredible small business owners in Orléans and across Canada for this year's Small Business Week. Je profite de l'occasion pour
I'd like to seize the opportunity to pay tribute to all our small businesses from coast to coast to coast. I'd like to thank them for their resilience and strength in this difficult period.
of Beachcomber Hot Tubs in Orléans, which has shown incredible adaptability. The business pivoted well by creating an online store to sell their product. They are not the only ones who have shined in Orléans this year. The Orleans School of Rocks has been amazing in spreading the love of music in Orléans and offering classes despite the pandemic. The government recently announced new support measures for businesses, and we will continue to do whatever it takes to support our small business across the country. Again, thank you for your strength, chapeau, et continuez votre travail.
Congratulations. Keep up the great work.
Le député
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, in my riding, Lévis-Lobinière, almost everyone is taking our preventive measures to fight COVID-19 very seriously. I would like to personally congratulate them, and I'd like to thank them for all the sacrifices they've made. Whether by wearing masks, reducing visits to family and friends, or celebrating important events differently, as well as all of our sacrifices in workplaces and schools. Each of these actions made by each and every one of us is worth mentioning and makes a real difference. The struggle we're currently experiencing will lead to success thanks to each of these little gestures. Mr. Speaker, it is our duty in these difficult times to offer the very best of ourselves, to come together and to put an end to this unprecedented struggle. Let us all be patient, resilient, and show solidarity, and together we will see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Beaches, East York.
Mr. Speaker, Beaches East York constituents Terry and Georgia Pirvalakis are committed to saving their toddler Michael, who suffers from an ultra-rare neurodegenerative disease known as SPG50. Among many other devastating outcomes of this disease, Michael's life will be cut incredibly short without a cure. Our East End community has stood beside Terry and Georgia as they have worked tirelessly to raise funds with the hope of finding that cure. Most recently, Terry trained intensely and biked from Toronto to Ottawa, where he met the Prime Minister to help raise awareness and funds. The goal is to raise $3 million for experimental gene therapy, and they have raised an impressive $1.6 million to date. For those who want to help, they can go to curespg50.org. So those in the House in particular can understand the scale of community support. There were more Cure SPG50 lawn signs in some parts of East York than political signs in the last election. I ask this House to join me in recognizing Terry and Georgia's tireless devotion on the journey to cure Michael, and I ask our federal government to support both them and our East End community here in Toronto in that journey as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Outremont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's Small Business Week, and this is the time to recognize the exceptional contributions of SMEs in our communities. Whether it be cafes, corner stores, family restaurants, they are all an important part of our neighborhoods and of our everyday routines. Our business owners are continuing to make huge sacrifices during this second wave. I don't know when the pandemic will be over, but I can guarantee that our federal government will be there to support you as long as it needs to help you.
I'm particularly proud of the collaboration between our business community and our federal government, whether it's with respect to the wage subsidy, the emergency loans, or our new rent program. All of these historic measures are thanks to your input, to your collaboration. So thank you for working with us, and thank you for your commitment to create the jobs, to create the growth that will ensure that the Canadian economy comes roaring back.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, Hindus across Canada and around the world are celebrating Navratri. The 9-night festival takes place every year in the fall as celebration of the victory of good over evil. When Navratri concludes on the 10th day, people in northern India celebrate Dussehra by distributing sweets and setting off firecrackers. The festival is also marked by the painting your homes and wearing new clothes. Mr. Speaker, I hope that everyone observing Navratri over the next several days has a joyful and safe festival season. On behalf of Canada's Conservatives, I would like to extend my best wishes to the Canadian Hindu community. May good always prevail over evil, and may light always trump over darkness. Happy Navratri.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to be a voice in Parliament today for the over 100,000 Canadians living with Parkinson's disease and the 10,000 or so Canadians that will be diagnosed this year. I recall Muhammad Ali lighting the Olympic flame in Atlanta after his Parkinson's diagnosis and watching Michael J. Fox on TV while he fought his symptoms. Parkinson's hits close to home for me as well because my dad, Joe, was diagnosed about 8 years ago. Since then, my dad has been an active volunteer and organizer with Parkinson's Canada and their annual Super Walk. When it became apparent that the Super Walk would be changing this year due to COVID-19, my dad, Joe, got walking. He set an incredible goal of walking 1 million steps this summer. Amazingly, he completed those steps in his hometown of Peterborough with his small but mighty Peterborough Parkinson's community, and they raised a lot of money too. Better treatments and a cure for Parkinson's are out there. I want to thank Parkinson's Canada, Dr. Anthony Lang, and the Michael J. Fox and Davis Finney Foundations for doing so much for people with Parkinson's, and I encourage everyone to support their local Super Walk next year. I'm proud of you, Dad.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
For months, the Trudeau government has been promising to support the airline industry. For Canadians continue to see nothing. Flight attendants and baggage handlers have been furloughed. Pilots are struggling to get flight hours. Passengers' flights have been cancelled. Air traffic controllers have been laid off. And service jobs in airports have become virtually non-existent. Air Canada cancelled dozens of regional routes. WestJet is no longer flying to Atlantic Canada or Quebec City, and both Sunwing and Porter Airlines haven't operated flights since March. How much more adversity does this sector have to face before this government will act? To get our economy back up and running, we need to safely fly people and goods across our country as well as abroad. We need to see rapid testing in airports. We need to see our regional routes restored. And finally, we need to see a plan from this Liberal government that keeps Canadians safe, protects jobs, and doesn't leave the future of Canada's airline sector up in the air.
I just want to remind the honourable members when making statements in the House or asking questions or talking at all that when referring to another member, refer to them by their title or the riding that they represent, not by their proper name. The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have failed to deliver an action plan to address violence against Indigenous women and girls. It's been 16 months and the government has been sitting on the results of the National Inquiry's final report. This government sure loves process, but again fails to deliver action. Last week, Canada's Ombudsman for Victims of Crime released a letter to the government titled, "The time to act is now." They said, quote, "We can no longer only talk about what we should do. We need to take action now because Indigenous lives are at risk every day." The Native Women's Association issued a report card last spring, giving the Liberals a resounding fail. In the last election, Conservatives pledged to develop an action plan that would advance reconciliation, address violence, achieve measurable improvements for Indigenous women and girls. But from the Liberals, there's been nothing but talk. Indigenous women and their families are wondering, when will the Liberals deliver a plan? This year? Next year? Never?
Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
As Canadians, we value equity and fairness, and our health system reflects those values, guaranteeing that all Canadians, no matter where they live, get quality, publicly delivered, universally accessible health care. But in Alberta, our cherished public health system is under attack, and this attack is affecting women's lives and livelihoods disproportionately. This week, we learned that due to cuts Jason Kenney's made to health care, the maternity health clinic in Medicine Hat is closing its doors. This clinic provides 9,000 prenatal visits per year. In addition, it was announced that 11,000 Alberta Health Service jobs, primarily in laboratories, housekeeping, food services, and laundry, will be cut. These positions are predominantly held by women. In March, we called these essential workers, and now they are just another casualty in our Premier's war on public health care. Will the minister commit to protecting women in Alberta and in Canada? Will she withhold transfer payments if Jason Kenney refuses to adhere to the Canada Health Act?
Honorable député d'Avignon-Lamitis-Matane, Matapédia.
The honourable member for Avignon-Lamitis-Matane, Matapédia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to mention the birthday of Marie-Paul Gaudreau, better known as Madame Bouliane or Grandma Boo. She's an exceptional woman who will be 103 on the 28th. She's a fighter. She had 14 children and now has 41 grandchildren and nearly 90 great-grandchildren. She brought exceptional people into the world, people who are working hard for the development of our region, whether in hockey or in politics. Not only is she in perfect health, but Madame Bouliane has an incredible sense of humor. And it really tickles her that we are a part of two different political families. Today, I would like to say that her positivity and faith are inspiring. She's seen everything, as she often says, and she's not going to let this current crisis get the better of her. In order to respect current health measures, she is ready to see her 103rd birthday fly under the radar so that next year she can organize a big party with her loved ones when she turns 104. We need more positive women like you, Madame Bouliane. Thank you for everything. Happy birthday. The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This month, the Éduc-Alcool organization will be 30. 30 years ago, 5 visionaries had a great idea to give Quebecers more ideas about how to use alcohol prudently, and they've had great success. Today, barely anyone in Quebec hasn't heard the slogan La modération a bien meilleur goût. Moderation tastes way better. That slogan was the result of a deal with the SAQ for the symbolic sum of $1. In my opinion, that was one of the great deals that Quebec has seen. The organization's contribution to Quebec's progress when it comes to alcohol consumption has been striking. Prevention and awareness campaigns have had a real impact. And Éduc-Alcool is much more than an awareness organization. It is a respected and recognized actor, recognized by the Quebec authorities, and the work continues. We know that there are still way too many difficult incidents unfortunate incidents because of alcohol consumption, and that's why I would like to invite all of my colleagues to follow Éduc-Alcool's October campaign. The honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased to rise today during Small Business Week in order to celebrate the incredible work of all the small businesses in my region, Vaudreuil-Soulanges. The last 8 months have been a real test of resiliency for small business owners, but they have been able to overcome the challenge and have worked hard. I would like to mention all the efforts of Joanne Brunet, Philippe Roy, and Marie-Ève Ménard from Vaudreuil-Soulanges Development, as well as Pierre-Jean Savard, Jean-François Blanchard, Mathieu Miljour, Nadine Lachance, and their team at the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Since March, they have supported our regional economy through various programs, such as the BuyLocal.com initiative.
In my community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges who continue to support our small business owners and our local economy. It's never been more important to shop local, and I encourage our entire community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges to do so leading up to the critically important holiday season. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Question orale. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, first the Prime Minister said he was going to make a decision on Huawei before the last election, and he didn't. Then he said he was going to listen to our allies before he made a decision. Then he didn't. Our Five Eyes allies have all decided that Huawei can't be in our 5G infrastructure. Will the Prime Minister come clean with Canadians and admit he wants Huawei to be part of Canada's 5G network?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, emerging 5G technologies have the potential to meet an explosion in consumer and industrial demand for faster and higher capacity networks. We want to ensure that Canadians benefit from the latest 5G innovations, and at the same time, safety and security of Canadians will always be our #1 priority. We will never compromise on issues of national security. That's why we're working with our allies, with our experts in intelligence and security services to take the right decision for Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And he will never make a decision, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, we stand up for human rights. This week, we heard that Huawei was being banned from the network and even described China as a threat to national security. The Liberals often like to quote Sweden as an example, but not this time. Why is the Prime Minister afraid of putting public safety first when it comes to a Chinese business? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will always work to protect the security of Canadians and our communities. That is our first priority. At the same time, we will continue to work with our allies, with our partners, as well as with intelligence and security agencies to make the right decisions for Canada. We will continue to do what is in the interest of Canadians. The Leader of the Opposition. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Investigations show that the Prime Minister offered a Liberal friend a huge contract. Frank Baylis was a Liberal MP just 6 months before getting the contract. Now he is making ventilators. What a coincidence, Mr. Speaker. He received a contract for more than $200 billion. Is the Prime Minister going into an election to hide these scandals and corruptions? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since day one, we have taken measures to ensure that we have the necessary equipment to ensure the safety and health of Canadians. An important part of our strategy is to establish partnerships with industry in order to guarantee a safe and certain supply in ventilators, but I don't want my honourable colleague to mislead the House. There is no contract between public procurement and Baylis Medical for ventilators. We are well equipped. We are using less than 10% of our current capacity of ventilators. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. That's interesting, Mr. Speaker. FTE, a company, was created just 7 days before it got a contract for more than $200 million. The Prime Minister said in May that we would get 30,000 ventilators by the end of the year. The result? The latest public figures indicate that we have only received 2% of that amount. Is the Prime Minister giving contracts to professionals or to friends? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I don't want people to be concerned. We are currently at 10% we are using 10% of our current capacity. We have received more than 3,500, and we expect more to come in coming weeks. We are acting according to recommendations by experts panels and asking public health and those responsible. There was a contract to FTE for 10,000 ventilators. Public procurement has no role in this. The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, means the Prime Minister is failing Canadians once again. Yesterday, the Prime Minister was willing to call an election to cover up the truth as to who was getting contracts from this government. This morning, we learned that former Liberal MP Frank Baylis signed a contract with this government that pays his company over $200 million for ventilators. Even in a once-in-a-century pandemic, Liberals find a way for Liberals to help themselves to taxpayer dollars. Mr. Speaker, how many more contracts did the Prime Minister hand out so that the Liberals could make money during a COVID pandemic?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, since day one, we've taken action to ensure that we have the supplies needed to keep Canadians safe and healthy. Canada is well equipped in ventilators. We're now using less than 10% of our current capacity. We've received thousands and we'll be receiving thousands more in the coming weeks. Following the recommendation of an expert review panel and at the request of PHAC, PSPC officials awarded a contract to FTI for 10,000 ventilators. PSPC has no involvement in agreements reached between FTI and its suppliers.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2015, we heard that Canada is back, internationally speaking, and then there was the Aga Khan scandal in 2019. We talked about the environment, and we had the first scandal in the judicial appointment process. In 2020, we want to invest in the fight against COVID-19, and we invest in the weed charity scandal in 2020 still. We're talking about helping businesses that are suffering, and then there's the wage subsidy scandal with the Liberal Party. We never managed to talk about what interests and concerns concerns people. I want to know what the Prime Minister thinks about an issue that interests Quebecers. What does he think about censuring a professor at the University of Ottawa? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we must all be aware of what our words mean. We promote respect for others and listening to communities. Our priority is to always put forward concrete actions to fight racism in all forms. The Honourable Member for Beloeil-Chambly. We forgot to put some maple syrup in our pablum. Now, to come back to We Charity and the judicial appointment process, and we wanted to talk about judicial appointments. We had the scandal of $230 million to a friend. The Prime Minister has hidden his scandals under another scandal, and yet the scandal is people who are really concerned about racism, and a professor, a teacher, who is really afraid. Does he have an opinion? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our concern during the pandemic is the health and safety of Canadians, and to ensure equal opportunity for all. That is what we are going to continue to do by working directly with Canadians. But I understand the concern and the anxiety of the Bloc Québécois in having a federal government that is delivering every day for Quebecers, a federal government that is helping Quebec families, a federal government that is helping Quebec companies, a federal government that is working hand in hand with the Quebec government in order to help Quebecers. Oh, the horror for the Bloc Québécois. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the pandemic, students have major challenges. It's difficult for students to pay for their tuition. It's difficult for them to find employment. The Prime Minister promised to help students, but instead of helping students, he helped their close friends and the We Charity. Now, does the Prime Minister prefer to plunge the country into an election instead of helping students in need? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, students and new graduates are in a very difficult situation because of the pandemic. We announced a solid plan to support them, which includes Canadian emergency response benefits for students that has helped more than 700,000 students, and job training with summer students, jobs, and other opportunities under the Youth Skills Strategy. And young people are at the heart of our plan. We will always be there for them.
Mr. Speaker, the entire We scandal was based on trying to help students, and instead of helping students, this government helped their close friends at We. And now it's become very clear, while students are struggling, while they're afraid, while they're worried, while they can't pay their bills, while they're not sure if they're going to be able to find a job, this government would rather risk plunging our country into an election than helping students. So were they just empty words, as I said, when the Prime Minister promised to help students, or will the Prime Minister get to work and actually help those in need?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, not only have we pledged to help students, but we have helped students. Students have been at the heart of the challenges faced by this pandemic, so we announced a comprehensive $9 billion plan to support them, including the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, which provided direct financial support to over 700,000 students and recent grads. We created jobs, placements, and training opportunities, including over 84,000 Canada Summer jobs, up to 40,000 student work placements, an additional 9,500 opportunities through the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy, and we've doubled the Canada Student Grants. We will continue to be there for our students all through the country.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Today, with tens of thousands of businesses closed across the country, limits on gatherings everywhere, the Prime Minister is on the edge of calling an unnecessary election to cover up his scandals. So polling locations for a federal election are often in schools or community centres, even in long-term care facilities and hospitals, where there are restrictions related to COVID-19. Before the Prime Minister made this afternoon's vote a matter of confidence, did he consult with Dr. Theresa Tam about how a federal election could spread COVID-19? And if so, what advice did she give him?
Good question. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect their Parliament to work to deliver for them through this pandemic. And indeed, over the past many months, we've done that. The government has worked with Parliament to deliver on the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, deliver on the wage subsidy, deliver supports for seniors, for youth. We've also worked with manufacturers to create PPE. We've moved forward on testing. We've moved forward with the provinces on keeping Canadians safe, and we will continue to focus on that. We certainly hope that the opposition parties choose to continue to make Parliament work constructively, because we want to keep delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Let's be really clear. This threat of an election is all, the Prime Minister wants to go to an election. He's out there doing this. But yet he didn't answer the question. Yeah. We've got restrictions across the country on gathering sizes. He's asking Canadians to sacrifice, and he's not willing right now to say if he consulted with Dr. Theresa Tam on what would happen if we had a federal election and how much that would spread COVID-19. Why?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, throughout this pandemic, we have reassured Canadians that Parliament continues to function, that our institutions are strong, that our democracy remains strong. We watched parliamentarians work together to deliver a historic aid for Canadians. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, we don't want an election. Canadians don't want an election, but Canadians need to know that their Parliament continues to work constructively. It doesn't mean we need to agree on everything, Mr. Speaker, but it does mean we need to be able to come together and deliver concretely for Canadians, and that's exactly what we plan to do on this side of the House.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Never before in parliamentary history has the creation of a committee become a confidence motion. That's all on this Prime Minister. We're in the middle of a pandemic. He's shut businesses down. There's restrictions on gathering sizes. And on October the 6th, Elections Canada said it needed at least 4 months to prepare for a general election in the middle of the pandemic. And today, he can't even say if he talked to Dr. Theresa Tam. This is what I want to know very clearly. Did he consult with Dr. Theresa Tam about a federal election potentially spreading COVID-19? And if so, will he make her advice public?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been engaged with Election Canada and other officials from the very beginning as people reflect on the possibility of an election which could theoretically happen at any time in a minority parliament. But our focus is on delivering for Canadians. Our focus is on working with all members of this House to deliver concretely for Canadians. We want this House to work constructively as it has in the past. What the members opposite now get to face in a few minutes in the vote is whether or not they want Parliament to work constructively for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Charlevoix-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, on March 26, Baylis Medical said it was approached with regard to the production of ventilators. March 31st, FTI professional grade was created by Rick Jameson, and the same day the government announced the end of the request for a proposal period. April 11th, Ottawa signed a contract for $237 million with FTI, and on April 16th, FTI signed a contract for the production of ventilators with Baylis. What's the difference between this contract and the sponsorship scandal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, a large part of our strategy to ensure Canadian safety is to create partnerships with industry to guarantee a safe supply of ventilators. So we are well equipped already, but we expect more ventilators still. We are taking action based on the experts' advice and Canada Health Agency. A contract was granted to FTI for 10,000 ventilators. Public services played no role in this agreement and this supplier. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows full well that FTI is a shell company. It was created with the express reason of having ties to Frank Baylis and his business. I said it in the first question. It's a shell company. It gets a contract from the government for $237 million that is transferred to Frank Baylis. The Prime Minister knows full well that Frank Baylis could not get the contract directly. Why is he playing this game? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, there is no contract with PSPC and Baylis Medical for ventilators. We have taken action based on recommendations from the expert group, and public health authorities gave FTI a contract for ventilators. PSPC played no role in the agreement between FTI and its suppliers. The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles, $237 million in contract given to a company that didn't even exist. In fact, we're paying the double of price for ventilators that are created by another company. We're paying a lot more than we need to. And the company didn't even exist a week before. Baylis got the contract. The minister can't believe what we're saying. How many other friends of the Liberal Party got contracts like this since the month of March? The Honourable Prime Minister, since the beginning, we have taken necessary steps to provide and ensure a supply of ventilators for the health and safety of Canadians in this unprecedented pandemic. We have worked with industry and partners to ensure a supply of ventilators. We will continue to acquire the required equipment to ensure the safety of Canadians throughout the pandemic. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, it's the government that decided to have a vote on the We Charity, the same government that announced earlier that it would table legislation to help businesses. When we talk about helping businesses, we're talking wage subsidies, rent assistance, and helping businesses in the red zones. So what this means is that either you have to zip it on the scandals or businesses will be left hanging. That is called blackmail, Mr. Speaker. Who do they think they are to hold our businesses hostage, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since the beginning, we have been working to deliver for businesses and families in Quebec and for workers across the country. We will continue to cooperate with the opposition parties in order to properly serve Quebecers and Canadians. If the Bloc has decided that it has enough of a federal government that is providing every day deliverables for Quebecers and Canadians, that's their issue. Perhaps that is why they want an election. We don't want an election. We will continue to deliver for Canadians and for all Quebecers every day. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. We have had it with corruption, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals want to go to election for small business. No, they're prepared to sacrifice small businesses. They don't want to go into election for our small businesses. They want not to protect assistance for seniors, the environment, or supply management. Rather, they want to force an election to hide up a Liberal scandal. They're taking public funds and they're giving it to Liberal friends. Will they finally understand that the priority is the pandemic, not their friends? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the pandemic, we must have a parliament that works together. We don't always agree, of course, but we need to have a democracy, a strong democracy. We need to be able to deliver for Canadians and Quebecers, as we have been doing since the beginning of the pandemic. If the Bloc, and for now a number of weeks, has been talking about wanting an election, it's up to them to explain that, and it's up to them to vote, as all opposition parties will have to do, either to continue to work collaboratively here in this House or not. And we'll see in a half an hour what they're going to do. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, last week, the Quebec aeronautic sector lost hundreds more jobs, 250 jobs at Pratt & Whitney on Montreal's South Shore. The aeronautic sector represents high quality, high-paying tech jobs. How many other aeronautics jobs will it take for this government to react? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are well aware of the issues created by the COVID pandemic on the aeronautics industry. As we mentioned in the throne speech, we are working to put in place solutions to ensure the aeronautics sector can have the support that it needs. To date, $1.1 billion in support has been provided to workers in this industry through the Canada wage subsidy. We continue to support workers in this industry and the industry. We will continue to be there to support workers from one coast to coast to coast, and that is why we must continue to work and not play petty politics as the Conservatives always do. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Lafjord. Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the government has no plan for aeronautics sector. A report by the Parliamentary Budget Officer recently revealed that Canada will not meet its objectives with the super cluster strategy. And the aeronautics sector has been left hanging. Canada shines around the world thanks to this sector. We are the envy of the world. When will the Liberal government have a plan for our aeronautics sector? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since the very beginning of our mandate 5 years ago, we've been working with the aeronautics sector in Quebec and across the country in order to ensure good jobs and a good future for this industry. It's so important for Canada and for the world. We will continue to work with our innovators in Canada as well as aeronautics companies and make the investments we need to make. We understand that COVID-19 has hit this industry hard, but we will continue to be there with direct aid to workers, and we are working with the sector to find solutions for the long term.
Or the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, 7 days before a $237 million contract was awarded, FTI was created. This company is a partner with Frank Baylis. Frank Baylis is producing Baylis ventilators. Frank Baylis was an MP just 6 months before the contract. What is the truth, Mr. Speaker? Why the cover-up? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since the beginning, we have been working with industry across Canada to deliver services and equipment that is needed during the pandemic. It's an unprecedented pandemic. According to recommendations from Public Health, an agreement was reached with FTI by PSPC. We have no ties with any suppliers to FTI. This is a priority to have these ventilators, so the health and safety of Canadians is always a priority for us. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
For months, the Prime Minister asked Canadians to follow public health advice. For months, he asked Canadians to consult Dr. Tam and health authorities for their well-being, for the health of all Canadians. Just 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister cancelled Thanksgiving and said we better be prepared to cancel Christmas. And today, he won't answer our question on whether he asked Dr. Tam about having an election in a pandemic. Will the Prime Minister admit he's willing to put his electoral fortunes ahead of the well-being of Canadians?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The well-being of Canadians is what this government has been focused on since day one. Right. We've delivered on supports for families and for seniors. We've delivered on supports for students and workers. We've delivered for small businesses. And in Small Businesses Week, we've heard across the country how much of a difference what we've made is doing. Furthermore, we continue to work with public health officials, and I can assure you that Elections Canada has worked very closely with health officials to determine what the best path forwards are, and I have full confidence in Elections Canada to be able to do those things. Our focus is on continuing to deliver for Canadians. It's up to the opposition to decide if they want to make Parliament work.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, it's become very obvious to Canadians that the Prime Minister is trying to force an unnecessary election. But our country is facing an unprecedented pandemic. Canadians are deeply concerned about their health and also about paying their bills and feeding their families. This Prime Minister says he wants to help Canadians, but he's clearly more interested in playing politics. So my question is this. When the Prime Minister committed to pharmacare in the throne speech just 2 weeks ago, was he serious, or was that just another hollow Liberal campaign promise?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning of this pandemic, we have stepped up to help Canadians, to help families, to help workers, to help small businesses, to ensure that the provinces have adequate PPE and testing facilities. We've flowed billions of dollars to the provinces in order to make sure we're reopening schools safely. We're supporting our most vulnerable. Every step of the way, we worked constructively with members of all parties in order to deliver in this pandemic. Today, unfortunately, the opposition parties need to make a choice about whether or not they want to continue to work collaboratively and constructively, which doesn't mean agreeing on everything, but does mean moving forward and focusing on Canadians. That's the choice they get to make.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, COVID cases are increasing and people are worried about their jobs, their kids, and the health of their loved ones. Instead of building a universal childcare and early learning system that would help families, this Prime Minister would rather throw us into an election. If the Liberals really cared about families and parents who must make the difficult decision between going back to work and taking care of their kids, they would work with the opposition to find a solution. This government bragged about their commitment for childcare in the throne speech. Was this really a commitment to help families, or just another empty pre-election promise?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we were proud to stand before Canadians with that throne speech and talk about childcare, talk about pharmacare, talk about the investments we were going to be making to recognize the gaps that COVID-19 have demonstrated in our social safety nets, in the fabric of Canadians' lives, and work closely with all others to fill them. We've flowed historic investments to support families, to support working moms, to support Canadians from one coast to the other, to deliver for them, and we're going to continue to do that. The opposition parties need to choose whether they want to work constructively in this House or not. We will see.
The honourable member for Thunder Bay Rainy River.
Mr. Speaker, the Canada-U.S. border between Thunder Bay and Manitoba is all part of my riding. We know that border restrictions to non-essential travel have been effective in limiting the introduction and transmission of COVID-19 into Canada from other countries. Can the Prime Minister please update the House on measures our government is taking with regards to our border? Thank you.
Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the member for Thunder Bay Rainy River for his important question and his hard work as a healthcare professional as well as an MP. Since January, we've taken multiple measures at our border to protect health and safety of Canadians by limiting the introduction and spread of COVID-19 in Canada. We made the extraordinary decision back in March to introduce reciprocal border restrictions for non-essential travel with the U.S., and just this week, we've announced its extension for another month. We will continue to do what is necessary to keep Canadians safe, and we'll always base our decisions on the best public health information available.
The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the official opposition and the member for Calgary asked a very simple question to the Prime Minister. Did he consult Dr. Tam to find out if it was possible to hold an election during the second wave of the pandemic? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have great trust in Elections Canada and in their ability to allow our democracy to operate. Since the beginning of this pandemic, we have shown that despite the pandemic and even because of the pandemic, it's essential to operate our parliamentary institutions and our democratic institutions. That's what we did exactly. We're working with our partners here in the House. We've worked with the provinces and with Canadians to deliver during these difficult times, and we're going to continue to do so. The opposition must choose if it wants to cooperate here in this House. The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabaska. We're in front of a Prime Minister who wants to trigger an election, a Prime Minister who wants to hide his We Charity and judge appointment scandals and all the money he's giving to his Liberal cronies. The questions that the leader of the opposition asked was simple. Did he consult Dr. Tam about whether we could trigger an election during the second wave of the pandemic? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in our country and in our democracy that is quite robust, we have a system that takes care of elections. Elections Canada is doing the necessary work to make sure that when there will be an election, whether it's in 3 weeks or 3 years, Mr. Speaker, we'll be ready despite the pandemic. We trust our institutions and Canadians can do so as well. What the opposition parties must decide is whether they want to continue to cooperate to work constructively in this House or not.
For Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's failure of leadership turned the tensions over the Nova Scotia lobster fisheries into a crisis. He ignored it until violence erupted. People were hurt and buildings were burned. But that's his MO, isn't it? Do nothing, send out a couple of tweets, do nothing some more, and then blame everyone else. And what's worse, as vandalism and violence escalated, he decided to just join in a debate here in Ottawa a couple of days ago, 1,000 kilometers away. Why doesn't the Prime Minister finally pick up the phone, talk to the people on the ground, and actually do his job?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously we strongly condemn the acts of violence, racism and threats we've seen in Nova Scotia. We have to be clear. For productive conversations to continue, we need to fully implement this right, so the violence must end. We will continue to work with both First Nations and industry leadership to find a path forward, ensuring a safe, productive and sustainable fishery for all harvesters. The Minister of Fisheries and Oceans and the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations will be appointing a special representative very soon to continue fostering further dialogue between commercial harvesters and First Nations, and we will continue our discussions with the Mi'kmaq nation to nation.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
But, Mr. Speaker, this crisis has raged on for over a month, and fishers on all sides condemn this government's lack of action. Even a former top DFO official in the region said the government, quote, mishandled the situation terribly. Now the Prime Minister wants to force an election for his own self-interest, just to keep covering up his own scandals. For once, maybe he should actually lead. He could protect Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, keep their communities safe, ensure conservation and a prosperous fishery for all in Nova Scotia. He allowed it to become a crisis. So what is he actually going to do to fix it?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for 21 years since the Marshall decision, the federal governments of all different stripes have made progress on resolving this issue and recognizing the inherent rights of First Nations Mi'kmaq fishers. We will continue to do so. A number of years ago, our Minister of Fisheries from Beauséjour moved forward on strong agreements with the Mi'kmaq. We are continuing to move forward constructively and productively, not to solve this just with a Band-Aid, but to solve this issue once and for all in partnership with the Mi'kmaq and all people of Nova Scotia.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, all we want is to shed light on the We Charity scandal at one committee on behalf of Quebecers. We could free up 4 committees that were studying the scandal by creating just one. The truth is that we're making the government work easier during a pandemic as long as it answers our questions. But the Liberals will stop at nothing to sidestep talking about this scandal. They shut down the Parliament this summer to skirt the issue, and now they want to bring down their own government to avoid answering questions. What are they hiding from Quebecers, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I understand, Mr. Speaker, why the Bloc really needs to have an election, because for 6 or 7 months now, the federal government has been delivering for Quebecers. It's been helping Quebec families and Quebec workers and helping small businesses by working hand in hand with the Quebec government. We're going to be there to continue to support Quebecers. And it's politically problematic for the Bloc to have a federal government that is doing so much good for so many Quebecers. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. That would be less problematic in some cases. What's paralyzing the Parliament isn't the opposition, it's the collection of Liberal scandals. Today we learned that the Liberals awarded a $237 million contract to a former Liberal MP in this House not even a year ago. There was an untendered contract through a shell company created barely 7 days before it received the Liberals' check. It's hard to strike a committee every time there's a Liberal cronyism. The Parliament would be paralyzed for quite some time. How many special committees will it take to cover all of these scandals? Since the beginning of this pandemic, we've worked with all parties in this House to deliver for Canadians. We were able to deliver the CERB and the wage subsidy. We were able to deliver individual protection equipment and testing materials. We were there to restart schools safely for our students, and we're working hand in hand with provinces, and we're going to continue to work with all members of this House to help Canadians, but the opposition has to make a choice. Do they want to work productively or not?
Calgary Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we saw hundreds of aviation workers protesting here on Parliament Hill, pleading for the government to provide them with a plan that gets them back to work. It's been over 200 days since both Porter and Sunwing Airlines have operated flights, with both Air Canada and WestJet suspending dozens of routes. Because of this Liberal government's failure, flight attendants have been furloughed, pilots are struggling to get flight hours, and air traffic controllers have been laid off. When will the Prime Minister finally deliver a plan for the aviation sector?
Well, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that many sectors have been extremely hard hit by this pandemic, particularly the airline sector, among others. That's why the wage subsidy has helped the airline industry with over $1.1 billion in supports. And we will continue to work to support our airlines as we go through this difficult situation. We know we need to have a strong airline industry once we come through this pandemic. That is what we are focused on. We continue to work with partners. We continue to support workers across this country. We will ensure that Canada stays a strong leader in airlines and aeronautics.
Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, I have met with over 30 stakeholders in just the past 4 weeks, and they continue to tell me how desperately they need a plan or some kind of action from this government. We have heard that the government is starting to consult and work on solutions for the sector, but the fact is they should have been listening long before now. Just today, the EU removed Canadians from the list of approved travellers, and the ripple effects of the Prime Minister's negligence will continue to grow. Has the Prime Minister given the Minister of Transport a directive and a deadline to address this critical situation? Yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as a government, we've been squarely focused on the safety and security of Canadians. Now, we've seen other parties and other leaders not be as responsible in terms of doing the things that are protecting from the spread of COVID-19. But we will continue to ensure that what we do in terms of closing the borders, in terms of keeping Canadians safe, is always top of mind. Yes, we are there to support small businesses and large. We are there to support workers. We will continue to. But we will always make our decisions based on protecting Canadians from this pandemic, first and foremost.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matsky-Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister please share whether he consulted with Dr. Theresa Tam on how a federal election will be held during a national pandemic? What's the science-based approach to keep Canadians safe? And if an election is called today, how will immunocompromised Canadians be able to go to the polls? Thank you.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the beginning we have worked with scientists and health experts, and we know full well that Elections Canada has continued to work to ensure that we're able to hold an election in a safe way. But Mr. Speaker, we do not want an election, and the choice is up to the opposition parties whether they want to keep working productively and constructively in Parliament or not. That is what they are facing as a choice, and that is, Mr. Speaker, what we will see shortly.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, online hate is an ever-increasing and pervasive threat that has dangerous implications. We've seen racism simmer and rise. We've seen members of this House face the consequences. We've lost too many lives to despicable acts of violence in Canada and globally. We need concrete action. Can the Prime Minister please inform the House about our progress in addressing the Christchurch call to eliminate terrorist and violent extremist content online?
Before we go to the Right Honourable Prime Minister, I'm going to ask all those who are at home to please make sure that their mics are muted. There's been some interference there, and I want to make sure that everyone hears the questions and the responses. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for Mississauga, Erin Mills, for the important question and for her advocacy on behalf of her constituents. Too many people have been victimized by online hate, and we've seen the results of this too many times. That's why yesterday we announced over $700,000 in funding to YWCA Canada to examine hate speech trends while developing online tools and digital literacy training for young Canadians. We're also working towards establishing requirements for social media platforms to remove such hatred within a reasonable time or be held accountable. We are working together to address harm caused by online hate.
Once again, I want to remind the honourable members who are joining us virtually to mute their microphones if they're not asking a question or responding. The honourable member for Mission Matsky Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister refused to answer the question from the member from Calgary Nose Hill, the member from Durham, the member from Richmond Athabasca. The question is simple. Why is he refusing Canadians an answer to a simple question on how a federal election would be held during a pandemic? What is he afraid to tell us, and why is he afraid to give this House a science-based approach to an election during a federal pandemic? Thank you.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to focus on delivering for Canadians in this pandemic, on keeping Canadians safe. The members of the opposition have brought forward a motion that is clearly of non-confidence in this House, and they will then need to decide whether they want to continue to work collaboratively in this House or not. That is the choice they get to face. On this side of the House, we're not interested in an election, Mr. Speaker. We are dealing with Canadians. We are delivering for them every single day. The choice is up to the opposition, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of
Keeping Canadians safe, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has had multiple joint press conferences with Dr. Tam. In September, he said this: every step of the way, we were informed by our experts as to how to keep Canadians safe. Today, the Prime Minister's silence is an admission that he has not consulted Dr. Tam or experts ahead of threatening a general election in the second wave of the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister put the health and well-being of Canadians first today? Will he rise in this House and undertake not to force a general election before public commentary and opinion from Dr. Tam and Elections Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the choice is up to the opposition parties, Mr. Speaker. They moved a motion that is clearly not in confidence of the government. They have decided that they no longer want to work constructively in this House to deliver for Canadians. It is their choice, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we're not interested in an election. We have much work to do to continue to deliver for Canadians. The question before the opposition today is whether or not they want to continue to work constructively for Canadians or not, and we shall soon see their answer. Hear, hear.
I just want to remind the honourable members that calling names that are unparliamentary are not really acceptable, and I just want to remind them to watch their language. I know times get emotional in here, and sometimes things run away, but just be careful. The honourable member, l'honorable député.
The honourable member for Levis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, according to the press, to be appointed a Liberal judge, you must have donated to the party, had lawn signs, and participated in a partisan event, made calls during an election campaign, been a volunteer, and, of course, be a member of the Canadian Bar. Mr. Speaker, are these really the new Liberal criteria for becoming a judge in Canada? This is scandalous. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we made important reforms to the judicial appointment process in 2016. We strengthened the role of independent consulting committees, and we adopted a more rigorous and responsible system that better reflects Canada's diversity. Appointments are merit-based and based on the needs of courts and the expertise of every candidate. We are proud of the highly competent jurists that have been appointed since we adopted this strengthened system, and they come from various backgrounds and of various political stripes. The honourable member for Vimy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for Small Business Week, I would like to highlight that small businesses across the country are the best way to restart our economy. Small businesses have been on the front lines of this pandemic, but they have shown great strength in facing it. Can the Prime Minister tell this House how our government is supporting Canadian SMEs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank the member of Vimy for this very important question and her hard work. Companies have always been there for us, and now more than ever, they need our support. That is why our government launched the biggest aid package for small businesses in Canadian history with programs such as the wage subsidy, the Canadian Emergency Business Account, which has helped more than 770,000 small businesses, the Rent Assistance Program, and much more. Nothing is off the table when it comes to helping our small businesses that are the very heart of our success as a country.
Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister is hiding behind the opposition and refusing to be open about his agenda with Canadians. While people are struggling with the second wave, they also know that we are facing another impending global emergency, the climate crisis. Just 2 weeks ago, in his throne speech, the Prime Minister made promises to take long overdue climate action. But now the Prime Minister seems determined to go to an election. He's playing politics with our climate and our future. Were those promises on climate change real commitments or just empty pre-election announcements?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past 5 years, we've done more on climate change and to protect Canada's natural habitats than any government in the history of this country. When we came in, a mere 1% of Canada's coastal areas and oceans were protected. We're now up to 14% and on our way to 25%, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to stand up for Canada's environment, continue to create good jobs into the future by investing in transforming our economy in positive ways and ensure that every region of the country plays a strong role in building that better future. Mr. Speaker, even as we are in this crisis of the pandemic, we need to address the crisis of climate change, and this government will.
And that's all the time we have for questions today. C'est tout le temps qu'on a pour les questions aujourd'hui. Comme il est 15h07.
It being 3:07, pursuant to order of Wednesday, 23rd of September 2020, the House will now proceed to the taking of a deferred recorded division on the amendment to the motion of Mr. O'Toole relating to the business of supply.
The list of members voting by video conference has now been established for the use by the table. The question is the following one. Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Mr. Deltel, moved that the House, A, note that WE charity scandal has preoccupied Parliament since the Canada student... May I dispense? Dispense? Okay, very good. There's no point of orders being called once the vote has been called, unless it's technical. Okay.